On that bingo card would be DeWanna Bonner would be waived after only playing 9 games with the Indiana Fever. But here we are. Kind of a surprise. In the clip notes for you, if you haven't been paying attention this week, she missed the Fever's last 5 games with quote-unquote personal reasons, and then it came out that...
Some big news here. The Indiana Fever are waiving DeWanna Bonner. She signed with the Fever as a free agent in the last offseason, but played in just 9 games before missing the last 5 for what the team called, quote, personal reasons.
They say legends never quit. But in the world of professional basketball, legacy doesn't always guarantee loyalty. A classic example is what happened with Indiana Fever star player DeWanna Bonner. She walked away from the team just 12 games into the season.
Well, DeWanna Bonner, you have one of the best records in WNBA history for playoff appearances. How is your leadership and your playoff experience really helping your team tonight?
She was basically the powerhouse of the team. They had brought her in with high hopes of chasing a championship. But she stunned the league, and she suddenly quitted on them barely halfway into the journey. But even she couldn't have expected the outcome of that decision she made. What happened next? Let's dive into the details. The game everyone is talking about. This won't be the first time an athlete would quit on a team, but DeWanna Bonner was no regular basketball player. This was a 2-time MVP and a 6-time All-Star. She didn't give any reason at a press conference or give a farewell tour to prepare her fans. It seemed she just decided, spur of the moment, that she was done. Many sports commentators tried to make sense of it by spinning various narratives. Some said she probably was feeling no more chemistry with her teammates. Others said maybe she had some locker room issues, or she was suffering from some physical decline. But to many, it just looked like she quit when things got hard. But what she did next didn't fit any of these narratives. It was a plot twist no one saw coming. It was more of a personal than a professional trade. DeWanna Bonner returned to the Phoenix Mercury, her former team.
With the 5th pick in the 2009 WNBA draft, the Phoenix Mercury select DeWanna Bonner from Auburn.
It was the place where she once dominated, led deep playoff runs, and wore the jersey with pride. DeWanna probably felt her fans wouldn't mind what team she was rooting for as long as she was playing. But she was in for a rude awakening. Instead of the usual applause that used to welcome her to the court, she's greeted by something far colder. For the first time on that court, she had called home for ages. She got booed. She got strong disapproval echoing from every corner of the arena. The audience was furious and felt betrayed. But something even more radical was happening on the other end of the court. A new player in the game was slowly but steadily making her mark. Her name was Aari McDonald. Aari McDonald was everything DeWanna Bonner wasn't. She was the new kid on the block. At her modest 5'6" height, she doesn't exactly walk into a room and command attention. She has had no MVP titles, nor has her picture been used on any magazine's cover. In fact,
to our Indiana Fever, they just signed guard Aari McDonald. This comes after the Fever waived forward DeWanna Bonner. McDonald did play for the Fever earlier this season before getting waived. She averaged 11 points a game.
She came in on a test run on a 10-day contract. But there was something about her. What she lacks in size and spotlight, she makes up for with something far more dangerous: heart. Most of the fans in the audience didn't even know 2 months ago, so safe to say this wasn't supposed to be her night. But what happened next was nothing short of dramatic. Because that night, DeWanna Bonner probably returned to the court on the opposing side to prove the point that without her the Fever didn't stand a chance. But Aari McDonald stole the spotlight and wrote a new chapter in the Fever's history. The final score was 107-101. But this wasn't just a basketball game, this was a reckoning. Game after game, Aari McDonald clawed for every minute on the court, diving for loose balls, out-sprinting defenders, and disrupting plays like a perky mosquito that just won't quit. She didn't have the height, but she had hustle. And little by little, her presence became impossible to ignore. And soon enough, that 10-day contract turned into something more. She earned her spot. At this point, the Fever couldn't afford to lose her. On one side, there was DeWanna Bonner, the legend who walked away. A player who was supposed to lead the Fever to greatness, only to abandon ship on a whim. On the other was Aari McDonald, the overlooked underdog who showed up when things were at their worst and stayed. From the moment the players stepped onto the hardwood, you could feel that electric charge in the air that only shows up when there's something deeper than just basketball at play. It was about to get very exciting. From the opening tip, it was clear this game wasn't going to be clean. Within minutes, the referees began missing obvious calls. 3 clear traveling violations by Phoenix's Satou Sabally went completely unnoticed.
In the CBS Sports HQ, the Phoenix Mercury are acquiring Satou Sabally from the Dallas Wings in a 3-team trade, according to ESPN. Sabally is a free agent and was expected to meet with the Liberty and Mercury.
The audience were in disbelief. They protested loudly and waved their arms in disbelief. It was at this point that everyone realized if the Fever were going to win this game, they'd have to fight for every inch. And fight they did. Aari McDonald, wasting no time, splashed her first 3 from the top of the arc. It was a smooth stroke. She had no hesitation. It was a kind of move that tells everyone she really did belong there. Then, something happened. Midway through the quarter, DeWanna Bonner checked in. The boos returned, and it was louder this time. There was no mistaking how the home crowd felt. This wasn't just a basketball game anymore. It was personal. But, while the crowd tried to rattle her, DeWanna Bonner's real-life partner, Alyssa Thomas, seemed to feed off the chaos. The moment she stepped onto the floor, it was like flipping a switch. She went on a tear, dominating in transition, muscling her way to the rim, and bulldozing defenders like she had something to prove. Meanwhile, things were starting to get chippy. Elbows flew, bodies collided, and one particularly nasty play left Sophie Cunningham checking her teeth after a hard hit. As the quarter neared its close, the Fever needed something to keep from falling behind too far. They brought in Chloe Bibby, who had also just been signed in on a 7-day hardship contract with Indiana on July 25, 2025, amid injuries, including Caitlin Clark's ongoing absence. Bibby has a height of 6'2", and she brings a much-needed size and spacing to the Fever's rotation. She's described by coaches as a stretch 4 who offers reliable shooting and rebounding. In her first 2 games for the Fever, she averaged 9.0 points and shot 50% from 3-point range. With just seconds on the clock, Bibby calmly stepped into a running 3-point bomb, sinking it just before the buzzer sounded. The crowd exploded. True, it wasn't enough to take the lead, but it was a lifeline to make it clearly known that the Fever weren't backing down. Still, when the scoreboard flashed at the end of the first, the numbers told a tough story. Mercury had 30, Fever had 20. Yes, the Fever down by 10 and outmuscled, but the game was far from over. In fact, a storm was brewing. Because despite the deficit, there was a spark in Aari McDonald's eyes, and she was only just getting started. Her next move was sensational: Aari McDonald's dominance. The second quarter begins with a different kind of energy. Whatever coach side said in the huddle lit a fire under the Fever, and Aari McDonald was holding the torch. Just 20 seconds in, she pulls up from the top of the key. One would think her relatively shorter height would be a deterrent. On the contrary, she looked unstoppable. Nothing could get in her way, not even the defender's outstretched hand. The ball made a loud splash into the net. The crowd erupts. That one shot feels like a spark catching dry kindling. Lexi Hull checks in and gets tangled up fighting through a screen. The referee's whistle called out the foul. The call is soft, barely contact, But the referee's hand is already in the air. This pissed the fans off once again. Even Lexi wondered what she had done wrong. Erupt again, this time in frustration. But the Fever channeled the frustration into fuel. Aari McDonald rips a steal off a lazy pass from Natasha Cloud and darts coast to coast. She glides past Diana Taurasi for a right-handed layup. Then, next possession, she curls around a Chloe Bibby screen and nails another three. This time, off 1 foot. A 12-0 run kicks off, with Indiana diving for loose balls, crashing the boards, and hustling like they've got something to prove. Caitlin Clark, who was still nursing a sore ankle on the bench, is up and clapping after every bucket.
Caitlin Clark did not back down when the Atlanta Dream got chippy with her. Especially Ryan Howard was trying to get on Caitlin her nerves, but she kept cooking her. And they were face guarding her the entire game like she was prime Steph Curry.
After Aari's third triple of the quarter, Clark's up waving a towel like a college hype man, with pride beaming in her eyes. But Bonner wasn't just taking all of these without returning moves of her own. Bonner, trying to silence the storm, forces a fadeaway mid-range jumper. Brick. Then, on the next Mercury trip down, she tries to dribble behind the back but loses it. Turnover. She doesn't get back on defense, and Lexi Hull punishes it with a transition three. The arena explodes. Everything is clicking now. Mercury calls a timeout, but it's too late to stop the bleeding. Fever fans are on their feet. There were kids dancing in the aisles. Aari's teammates swarm her on the sideline like she just hit a buzzer beater. But the quarter isn't over and she's not done yet. There's more. Coming out of the timeout, Aari baits a switch, gets Bonner on her heels, and drills a step-back three from well beyond the arc. Bonner barely contests. Aari turns to the crowd with a calm nod like, "Yeah, I'm here to stay." By the time the halftime buzzer sounds, the scoreboard reads Fever 55, while Mercury 50. Aari McDonald heads to the locker room with 17 points, 4 steals, and the entire building chanting her name. What started as a 10-day contract has turned into a highlight reel moment in front of 17,000 screaming fans. The third quarter opens like the second never ended with Aari McDonald still in takeover mode. She slices through defenders like traffic cones, leaving her defender flat-footed on one drive and dishing a no-look assist to Aaliyah Boston the next. The Fever were running and gunning, and Aari was at the wheel. But the Mercury wasn't folding just yet. DeWanna Bonner tries to impose herself, posting up Lexi Hull, using her size and veteran savvy. But Lexi holds her ground, chest up, refusing to give an inch. Bonner spun baseline and got denied. The crowd roars in jubilation. On the next possession, Bonner attacked again, this time met at the rim by Nalissa Smith. The ball gets swatted so hard, it ricochets off the backboard, nearly landing in the front row. But it's the next moment that electrifies the building. Tiffany Mitchell lobs a high pass to Boston in transition. She catches, pivots midair, and drops in a soft two-handed dunk. The bench empties in celebration. Clark jumps out of her seat, fist raised high, face lit up with joy. But this is where it gets more interesting. Bonner responded with a couple of quick buckets. First was a pull-up over Smith, then a turnaround jumper over Lexi. It's her first clean stretch of the night, but the crowd barely notices. This was supposed to be her redemption arc. But her earlier struggles still hang over her like a cloud. Then the whistles start. 3 straight possessions, 3 questionable fouls against the Fever. 1 on Smith for vertical defense, 1 on Mitchell for a hand check, and then a ticky-tack call on Hull for simply breathing too close to Taurasi. The crowd groaned. It was obvious they were strongly rooting for the Fever. Despite all the whistles, the Fever refused to lose momentum. Aari steps up with a drive and kick to Bibby, who drains a corner 3. Next trip down, Aari snakes through 2 defenders, finishes off the glass. Her pace never lets up. Her confidence was just untouchable. But Phoenix is chipping away. Taurasi nails a deep 3 with the shot clock winding down. Sugg Sutton adds a baseline floater. The Fever lead, once as high as 11, is down to just 2. The quarter ends with both teams standing, chests heaving, sweat flying. The scoreboard reads Fever 74, while Mercury 72. This was the match of the season. With 3 quarters down and just 1 to go, the crowd was on edge. Aari McDonald had already hit career-high numbers, and everyone knew the 4th quarter would be the dagger. The final quarter begins with the game hanging in the balance. 2 points separate the teams, but the Fever step back on the court with purpose. And leading the charge now? Aaliyah Boston. She was well-rested and ready for blood.
Aaliyah Boston delivered a career performance in Seattle, dropping a personal best 31 points as the Indiana Fever surged to a 94-86 victory over the Seattle Storm. Let's break down how the Fever snapped their skid and stunned the Storm on their home court.
She wasted no time. She sealed her defender, took the entry pass from Mitchell, and muscled in a left-handed finish and won. She calmly sinks the free throw. She took on the next possession and got another bucket in the paint. Phoenix tries to collapse on her, but it doesn't work. Boston spins baseline on Turner and finishes off glass. On the next trip down, she draws a double, kicks it out to a wide-open Nalissa Smith, who drains the mid-range jumper. The Fever offense is humming and Boston is the conductor. On the other end, things unravel fast for Mercury. DeWanna Bonner tries to answer, but the frustration is written all over her face. Her jumper got bricked. Her next drive got blocked. On defense, she gets caught ball-watching, leaving Sophie Cunningham wide open on the wing. That was a bad idea. Sophie catches, rises, drills the 3, and gets fouled. The whistle is deafening. Cunningham slaps the hardwood, roaring as Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupts in chaos. She steps to the line with ice in her veins, nails the free throw. The Mercury call timeout. But it's too late. The Fever are already dancing. The game finally ended with Indiana Fever at 107 and Phoenix Mercury at 101. DeWanna Bonner, the 5-time All-Star, left the stage with her head down and her jaw tight, haunted by missed shots and missed chances. There was no doubt that this was Aari McDonald's night, even though she wasn't supposed to be the star so fast. This game was Aari's way of making her mark and saying she's here to stay no matter what. And to think it all started with a veteran athlete's decision to betray her team on a whim. What do you think was the real reason DeWanna Bonner abruptly left Indiana Fever? What is your take on what the future holds for Aari McDonald with the Fever now that she has made her mark? We would love you to share your opinion in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.